to episode 5 of Kiss My Wax. Everything seems to be going great. The Creatures episode 4B has gotten a lot of response and lots of views, and we really appreciate that. So, as you can see, there's only 2 of us here today. Mr. Andrew Scambatti is out in Las Vegas promoting Mr. Speed somewhere, so we thought we would throw together. We didn't want to skip a week, so we thought we would throw together an informative episode that maybe talks about the labels and stuff instead of just doing a specific release where Andrew has to miss out. So this is going to be a lot of minutia, a lot of information. We hopefully will clear up a lot of questions about the label. What labels came on which records, what releases, and when. And Tom has a lot of information that he's going to tell us, and Andrew's going to have to drop in a ton of examples and stuff.
A ton.
So anyway, it's going to be that kind of episode. No specific release. Again, we're going to talk about labels and variations, and we'll just go from there and see where it takes us. And so, what do you got for us, Tom?
All right. Well, first, let me apologize right at the start here, because I'm going to be looking off to the side a bunch. I mean, we all keep this stuff in our heads, but I don't want to misstate anything or whatever. So I've got another screen over here that's got a spreadsheet on it, to help us kind of work our way through this. I think one of the first questions some people may have is why is this important to some people? And I think from my experience, when I first got back into collecting Kiss vinyl in the early 90s, I had my old vinyl, and that's one thing I did manage to keep through all the years, never did throw any of that away. But I started noticing that it looked like, well, it just didn't seem like I had everything the way it should be. My copy of Alive 2 that I got brand new didn't have the tattoos in it. My copy of Rock and Roll Over didn't have the sticker. Like we discussed on some of these other podcasts, that's a clear sign that they were counterfeits here in the United States. And by counterfeits, that means they came off the same assembly line at the pressing plant. But Gene and Paul and Bill Aucoin and Casablanca didn't get compensated for my copy. All they got compensated for were the copies that had those inserts in them. Those are the only ones that were authorized to go out. So anything that was bought like that brand new, they were counterfeits. So anyway, I wanted to try to replace that stuff. So that's what I first got into doing with it. And also I had some records I'd worn out. I'm sure my Dress to Kill looked like crap. I'm sure it did. And I actually, for the most, I may not have even had the first 3 when I first got back into vinyl in the early 90s, because I got the first 3 records by buying the originals. So that set was a little wore out. And I can distinctly remember being at a record show and seeing the first promo copy of a Kiss record I could buy. And it was Love Gun. And it was like, I don't know, $15 more than a regular copy. And to me, I'm going, well, why do I want that? I don't want that, And so I stayed away from it, because I think I've mentioned this also several times. The record store that I bought at in the 80s, it's called Cut Corner Records, and that's what they sold. They sold records that were, cut corner discounted records, or they were, a lot of promotional records, actual promotional ones that came through from the local radio station. So I really didn't value those. And you know what? I was wrong. I mean, just straight up.
Right.
I had this conversation with a gentleman yesterday that had sent me a PM asking. He's just getting back into it and wants to know what I would recommend that he tries to do first. He knows there's multiple pressings for stuff, and I told him one of 2 things, and the first one's a little tough to do, is either go after promotional copies, which can be a little tough and a little pricey, or to go after first pressings for every record. And, I wasted a lot of money by buying stuff that wasn't in great shape and, wasn't a true first pressing or whatever. and ended up replacing them through the years. So that's my advice to anybody that's trying to really work on their collection now is either make up your mind that you're going to try to go after the promo stuff, and you're going to have to spend some money, but those are always going to be the best pressings. I mean, Jason, you probably attest to this. They took care with the promo copies that they pressed back even in the 70s.
Sure.
They wanted to make sure that they were the best vinyl, that they were, sometimes they're a little thicker than the regular ones. These things were going to get played hopefully over and over and over on the radio. So,
right.
The label wanted them to be good copies. And then the next thing after that would be go after the first pressings. You may never want to get all the different label variations. You can't get all first pressings of just one label. It's not possible of one label variation. You can get an entire pressing series, but it's going to be to get all of them. Before the makeup came off. You're talking about having to get an 83, 84, or an 85 pressing. I mean, because they were still pressing makeup records that late. So anyway,
right.
This is a long drawn out process here. I would suggest if anybody's interested in this, take notes on this. Pause it or whatever. That's why we're doing this. I won't send you my list, okay? But if you write this stuff down, you'll have your list. And today we're not going to get into the different super minutia of label variations. We're not going to talk about, black fonts and silver fonts or, left justified, right justified. I mean, at some point we'll talk about that with each record. But today we're going to talk about the different label, paths that went down. So, all right, so let's just get started. Okay.
Sure.
So, the very first label that you can find on a Kiss record is the white promotional label for the very first release of Kiss, MB9001. All right. Now that's always going to have Kissing Time on it. Or I'm sorry, it's always not going to have Kissing Time. Somebody erase that.
All right. Yeah.
It will always not have Kissing Time on it. Okay. That is the only version of the first record that's available on a promotional label. You cannot find, and we're talking about the United States pressings here, obviously. You're not ever going to find a NBLP 7001 as a promotional copy. If they sent them out as a promo copy, they probably clipped the corner or whatever, and there's no evidence on it that it's promotional. So anyway, that's the first label variation. That obviously would have come out in 1974. All right, now we move on to blue labels, and we've got 4 different varieties of blue labels. Okay, the blue label one, that's going to have the biggest clue to it is it's going to have at the bottom of the label, it's going to have Warner Brothers listed down there. And what you'll see as Andrew rolls these graphics across here is I've cleaned all the junk off these labels. All you're going to see is the important stuff you need to put your eye on to know which pressing these are, okay? So what you're looking at right now should just show the Warner Brothers across the bottom. It should show Bogart across the top and no other print on it. And just concentrate on that Warner Brothers. There are only one record really that comes out with that, but there were 2 different pressings with it. That's the MB9001, okay? And you're going to find that without Kissing Time, and you're also going to find that on copies with Kissing Time, okay? That you will find that on labels. Of course, there's variations of that one, with Kissing Time. There's some copies that have it listed on the label, but it's not pressed on the vinyl. There are some that have it pressed on the vinyl, but it's not on the label. And there are some that's got it on the label and pressed on the vinyl. So that's going to be the true first blue label. All right. That was from what I've been able to find off different singles and stuff. That is going to have run from about February of 74 to August of 74. Okay. Then they discontinued it because they bought themselves out of their contract with Warner Brothers. Casablanca did. I'm gonna pull glass out here, man. So we move on to the blue label number 2. Okay. And on that label, Warner Brothers is going to be gone, and it's just going to mention Casablanca Records. There will be no address on that. Okay. The first record that came out with that blue label number 2 was Kiss MBLP 7001. That's the common one with Kissing Time. Hotter Than Hell, its initial release came out with that label variation. So did Dress to Kill, and so did Alive. So if you're going to find a true first pressing of any of those records, they're going to have that blue number 2 label. All right. The next variation of that blue label is blue label number 3. And what the tip off for it is, you will see the Sunset Boulevard address at the bottom of the label. It'll be much longer text. That is the third one. It came out around March of '76 and ran till about June of '76. Okay, very short period, but they pumped a lot of records out in that time. I mean, Kiss was killing it at that point. Right. You know, Destroyer had come out, Alive had come out. So even though this is a very short time frame, and again, this is just estimated time, but even though it's a very short time frame, there's a ton of these out there. So the ones that you'll be able to find with blue label number 3 is going to be the Kiss 7001, Hotter Than Hell, Dress to Kill, Alive, and Destroyer. Now, for Destroyer, that's the first pressing for it. Okay, that's the only blue label you're going to find, unless somebody's got a really, really oddball thing that happened. And let's talk about that for just a second. There are always going to be some anomalies, although I've not seen anything like a Destroyer on an earlier label. But it happened a lot in the later years, around 77, 78. There are a lot of singles. I haven't seen any albums, but there are a lot of singles that should have a Filmworks label on them, and they've got a Camel label on them. Right. And that's a label that was out a year before then, and they just had some laying around and they used them. So anything can happen, and that's kind of up to the individual collector how they feel about that. Some people think that's worth a lot. I don't think they're worth a lot. I like them. I like to get them. So if somehow if somebody found a Destroyer that had a blue label number 2 on it, that would interest me. But your average collector, it wouldn't. And I personally would not consider something like that something that I have to complete my collection. I just wouldn't. Okay, so that's blue label number 3. Blue label number 4, we're going to have to jump up several decades to 2014. So when they reissued all the albums, Kiss, Hotter Than Hell, Dress to Kill, Alive, and Destroyer all came out with a blue label. So they're blue label number 4. All right. And just hop in anytime you have anything to say here, Jason.
Oh, I will. But right. It's hard to hop in all of this when you've got it so well researched. So.
Yeah. All right. So the next label variation after the blue label number 3 is another white label promo. Okay. And we're going to call that a white label promo too, although it's much easier to refer to it as the original's white label promo. Right. Same thing with the first album. Everybody just calls that the first album promo. Everybody knows what it is. But that was the next label variation to come out. So, the only copies of the originals that you're going to find that white label promo on are the first printing of it. Man, it used to be a super, super, super valuable record. Yeah. And of course it's all pre-internet days. I never even thought they really existed until I walked into, and I've mentioned this several times online. I walked into a record show in Cincinnati back around 89 or 90, and this dealer had 18 copies of this record.
18
of the promo.
Oh
18
copies.
Gosh. Each one of them nicer than the other.
Wow.
And I've still got my promo from it. I went through and, it really was bothering me because I'm trying to make sure I've got the best one,
Right.
They all are really great. They're all really great. I mean, there's no wear on them or anything.
Can,
I'm sure some of them were bent, but
can I ask
uh,
what he was charging for them?
I'm going to tell you,
Okay,
80
all right.
bucks, 80
Oh my
bucks. And
gosh.
I wish I'd have had some money in that time. I bought that for me for Christmas and told my wife and my daughter that's what my Christmas present is. So,
That's what I do
uh,
today.
yeah,
Still, so.
yeah, man, yeah. So yeah, $80, and
Wow.
those kind of diluted the market a little bit. But what really ended up diluting it was once everybody got access to the supply out there through eBay. It is still extremely hard to find a near mint copy of that album. I think this one is near mint, except for the corners clip. So some people technically couldn't
Right.
even call that near mint. I don't care. I'm not that anal about
Right.
it. And the only one I've seen that looks as nicer is yours, Jason. I mean,
We'll
got a
show.
beauty. Yeah. At some point we will. Um, you know. So anyway, so there you go. There's the second white label promo, and that would have been around June of '76, somewhere in that time. Actually, I should have got that date, but anyway. So now we move to the Camel label. The Camel label was very short lived as far as a distinctive, um, label. It's the shortest time frame of any of them. Now, obviously, that blue number 3 was a shorter time frame, but I think most people, a lot of people don't care what blue label they got.
It's blue, as long as it's blue.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly. Although if you're going to really collect, you should care. You should
Right.
care. So it ran for about a year. The first record that it came out on was the originals. All right. It's also on the second pressing of the originals as well. And actually, I need to step back to that for just a second. That is really rare. But anyway, the other record that it came out on was Rock and Roll Over. As far as those two records, and one of them being two variations, there's not a Camel label that came out originally on any of these. Now they step back in time, so they released 7001 on the Camel label, Hotter Than Hell, Dressed to Kill, Alive, Destroyer. Everything in the back catalog got that Camel label as well. To me, I don't think these things are really sought after, and I don't know that I'm telling you that you ought to really be super seeking them out, but they're the toughest variations for me to find the first 3 or 4 albums.
Right.
And I never really realized that because, you go through and you buy stuff and you're like, oh, okay, whatever. But then I'm sitting there trying to complete some collections here. They're tough.
Yeah.
They're tough. Right. So, that if you're looking for something kind of obscure that and they don't bring a lot of money compared to the blue label. So, if I was going to segue away from getting first printings, that's probably the next collection that I'd look at. All right. So let me back up to this originals, the second pressing, having that Camel label. I wasn't aware of this until, I don't know, about a year or so ago. Somebody posted and said, hey, what have I got here? And, at first I'm thinking that, well, somebody Frankensteined you.
Right.
But when you put when you look at a first and second pressing of the originals, look at the labels, they are not the same. They're not the same. The fonts are not the same. The text on them are not the same. And when you look at that second pressing of the originals with the Camel label, every bit of that text and fonts matches the Filmworks label. That's the common version of that.
Interesting.
So to me, that's one that people should look for because right now most people aren't aware of it. You can get it fairly cheap. I do not have, if we talk about Frankensteining, and so for those that aren't aware of what that is, that's where you take pieces and parts from different albums and you put them together. Now I think most people don't do that intentionally to do something wrong.
Right.
I've done it before. I don't do it anymore. I didn't realize I was even doing it. You might take where you'll run into it sometimes is you'll find a really nice jacket and it'll have a first pressing LP in it. And then you look at the back of the jacket and it says CRC on it. It's Columbia Record Club. And, I don't want that now. You know, because the odds of me finding a good jacket for that vinyl is pretty slim. So, you know, I don't want that. That's what it is, Frankenstein. You're making something. Um, so, you know, keep that in mind as you look to gather your collection up. Um, you know, and again, we thought that that was a Frankenstein, but it wasn't. But I will tell you that I did Frankenstein that camel that I got because it had a piece of crap cover, had mold in it and everything
Oh my
else. It took,
gosh.
yeah, man. Oh yeah. It took me a while to get the records clean. They look pristine now. So yeah, I went out and bought another second, um, you know, second pressing cover and put it in there. I don't have a problem with that. You know, I mean, to me, that's just me putting together something that came down the same assembly line, just
Right.
came down different times. But some people might not agree with that, and I respect that. All right, so now after that Camel label, we've got a Camel label number 2. And again, we got to go 4 decades to 2014 with the 2014 releases. You know, what you'll see on these 2014 releases at the bottom, you know, they're going to say Island Dip Jam, or they're going to say Mercury, or they're going to say whatever. You know, they've obviously got different code numbers. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know how close people have looked at these code numbers on these 2014s. The US, they all start with a B, and then I can't tell if they got 2 zeros or 2 O's after it. It looks like boo. I
It's
think they're zeros. I think,
there's zeros, and that's the common label code with Universal product. It's
yeah,
all they're almost all B00 something 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 something.
yeah. I honestly couldn't tell. You know, I hate putting zeros on something like
Yeah,
that. But anyway, so there we go. So they're B00
they
instead
are.
of boo. But
That's correct.
anyway,
Yeah.
so you'll be able to see those. You know. All right. So now after the Camel label, after they semi-retire it in June of '77. Which, by the way I came to that number, um, get you look at all the different copies of Christine 16. There are multiple label variations on that. Okay, they're everything you can get with a Camel label, you can get with a Filmworks label. So you know that was right at the time they're doing the transition. So they transitioned into you know what I refer to as Filmworks labels. Okay, and let me talk about that. Why I call the one a Camel label and the other a Filmworks label. You know, I've seen some people want to call one of the two. I don't know which, a Casbah. I see people saying beige. I see all kinds of stuff, and I don't see anything that differentiates between those two labels. It's just really confusing to me. So I call the one a Camel label. I realize they both have a Ford on them, but you know those 3 camels stand out on that Camel
Right.
label. The next label variation is Filmworks label. There's a film crew right there on the label. So, you know, if you don't know which it is between the two, and you know, if somebody's got a better way to call them, I'm open to that. But you know, basically, you know, if you know there's a Camel label and a Filmworks label, and you look at them side by side, it's pretty evident which one's got the film crew on it.
Right.
So we're in the Filmworks label 1 at this point. All right. So, oh, I forgot to go back on that Camel label 2. The only thing that's pressed with that is Rock and Roll Over, obviously, since they didn't reissue the originals.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So now, in about July of '77, up until sometime in '79, and this gets interesting. I want to talk about this in a minute because I came to realization on something last night that I never thought about until then. But anyway, so this is when Casablanca is pumping Kiss records out. I mean, there are tons and tons of Kiss records being pressed all the time. And so the entire back catalog got this. So, you know, from the Kiss 7001, Hotter Than Hell, Dress to Kill, Live, Destroyer, the originals, the second pressing of it, Rock and Roll Over, Love Gun. I include that in there. It was the first record pressed at that time, although I can see why some people would call that a custom label.
Right.
Double platinum, same thing again. Even though it's a custom label, it is a Filmworks label. Same thing with the 4 solos. Those are Filmworks labels. They're just customized versions of those. So again, we got millions upon millions upon millions of records being pumped out. That's why that series is probably the least valuable of any of them.
Right.
You know, I mean, you know, the individual records, like, you know, a first, I don't even know that a first pressing, what's your opinion? First pressing of Love Gun, I don't see a lot of value to it anymore.
No.
I mean, if you don't have the gun in a merchandise sheet and it's not near mint, I don't think you're going to get a nickel for it. I mean, you might get $5.
Right.
You might.
That's what.
Yeah.
It's a $5-10 record at best.
And there is an oddity out there. I got my third copy of it the other night. Yeah, the band's not on the label.
Right, I saw that.
Yeah. So not that rare. I mean, I bought 3. I can't remember where this one's come from. I got one up in Cincinnati, bought another one from out in California. I don't know where this one's come from, but it was $25 and I jumped all over it. You know, I'm shocked nobody else wanted the thing.
I did want it. You just saw it before.
Well, I'll trade it to you.
No,
seriously, I got one.
All right.
I buy some stuff to trade.
Right.
You know,
because I bought an Ace without Ace on it, without Ace's Ace on it.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't have that. You want to trade that now? We'll work something out. But anyway, that's, you know, $25. I'm jumping all over it.
I agree.
If you wanted 50 for it, maybe even 30 for it, I'm passing. You know, I got one. Now maybe someone else would want it.
Right.
So anyway, but basically, there's not much there that's really super valuable. In fact, it gets really frustrating. So when we have, hopefully, we're going to have Marco on here at some point to talk about the Alive 2s, and I've been shooting stuff back and forth. I mean, he's got that worldwide stuff down pat, and he really does the U.S. too. But man, we have found like 8 or 9 different label variations for Alive 2.
Wow.
I mean, it's
like
nuts.
U.S. only? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, U.S. only.
That's
yes,
amazing.
yes.
That's amazing.
It's crazy. It drives me nuts. I thought I found one that I needed. I knew I needed this label variation, and it was in awesome shape. Got it at a record store, and I got it home, and damn, it said CRC back up.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, man. Which
That's
I didn't have it. I didn't have it, but I didn't want it, you know, because I've still got a hole for that.
Right.
It came with tattoos, a booklet, everything. I think I gave $14 for it, you know. I mean, I'll buy that record under $20 just to steal the inserts out of it. I don't care what kind of shape it's in. So anyway, so basically this first Filmworks label, you know, tons of records out there. If you want something rare, don't bother, you know. But you know, I mean, but that is a first pressing for Love Gun. That is a first pressing for Alive 2 double platinum and the 4 solo. So there you go. All right, now I'm going to talk about one that it just never really dawned on me until last night, and I'm not counting this. Okay. I'm just saying this is something interesting, something to contemplate. It's unique. If this was not Kiss, we would be having another slot in here for another set of pressings. All right. And you do actually have these with the singles. So from 79 to 82, that's after Polygram bought Casablanca, they started putting the printing plant numbers and the pressing plant numbers. Let's not say printing yet. Putting the pressing plant numbers on the labels. Okay. There are, if you find Filmworks label singles that have got a printing plant number, and it's an older record that predates 79, you need to buy that, because they're just not that easy to find. But we don't really count this as a label variation for Kiss, because everything they released in that time frame had a customized label on it. Okay.
Yeah.
Dynasty, you pull out your Dynasties. I was, again, disheartened. I thought I had a spare promo copy of Dynasty to sell, and I got to looking, and I'll be damned, they got different plant numbers on them. So yeah, I can't let that go. I have to keep. Yeah. So they started putting the plant number on there. We're not going to get into plant numbers today. And actually, we might just put this up on the website. I mean, it's no state secret or anything. There's a long list of what these plant numbers are that Polygram used. You'll see 56, 19, 26, 72. All these numbers will be on the labels. I think I said 19 already. But there's a huge list
Sure.
of other ones that Polygram use that I guess conceivably might show up somewhere, but I don't think they do. I think we know most of them. But anyway, that's what those numbers on the label represent. So what would have had that would have been Dynasty, Unmasked, The Elder, and Creatures of the Night. All 4 customized labels. So we don't count that. I don't count that in KISS. So we would have if they didn't have the customized labels.
Right.
Okay, so now we're going to shoot to and Ben. There's some controversy on this. I don't think it's controversial, but you know, I personally spent a long time researching this and finding these records. So has Mad Ace that many people see on our page. I think Tom Daniels is I think you've seen his name before. He is working on a set of these. I'm firmly convinced on this. You would have to bring me some physical evidence to tell me differently than this exists. Okay, there is a pressing from apparently between 1983 and 1984 of every record except for probably The Elder. I'm hoping there's one out there, but I haven't seen sign of it. But every other makeup record predating, starting with Creatures of the Night and going to the first record exists as an 83, 84 pressing. And the way that you can understand these is the label will mention Polygram and Casablanca Filmworks on it. Anything before 83 doesn't mention Polygram, even though Polygram owned the company then.
Right.
I think that must be when they went ahead and purchased the rest of the company. But anyway, so that will be on the label. On the back of the back cover, there will not be a printed UPC. Okay, no printed barcode on it. Now there may be a barcode on it, but it's going to be a sticker. A lot of the copies, I think a gentleman had a sealed Elder that had a UPC sticker on it, and he went ahead and opened the thing up, and it still had that hand label on it.
Wow.
So it probably was released during that time, but I'm not comfortable calling that an 83, 84 pressing because
right.
that jacket and vinyl can't stand there on its own and meet all the criteria.
Right.
So who knows about that? But maybe there's a copy of the Elder that meets it, maybe not. I will tell you that double platinum with that, and I bought 2 copies like this, and I've seen a couple others. I think Tom Daniels has got one that's got the UPC sticker on the back. Mine does not. They are shiny covers. They are shiny covers on these, even though they got that Polygram Filmworks label on them. A lot of people would assume that it's got the flat non-gatefold, but it is and appears to be, because I will tell you, I heated those jackets up and lifted them apart, and I can't find anything on them that indicates that they were from one of the newer printing plants that Casablanca was using. So that's the one thing that it does bother me a little bit. I would rather have one that had that UPC sticker on it, but
right.
That's the way it goes. Let's see. Creatures of the Night. That is one, and just watch the Creatures episode. We talked about it in great detail as to why that 83, 84 pressing of Creatures of the Night was so important in understanding the time frame for all that. And man, that's rare. It's rare. It's tough to find. It's probably the easiest one to find as far as on an auction, but you just don't see them coming up. When you see a picture, that's the problem with these 83, 84s. When you see a picture of an auction online, you normally are going to have to see really good photos of the label and the back of the record. Otherwise, there's no way to tell.
Right.
If you just see the label and you don't see the back of it, it could be an 85 pressing.
Right.
Okay, because that 85 pressing is going to have a UPC on it. I've bought several records like that, thinking that's what I had. I bought one Dynasty one time that I know it's got an 83, 84 label on it. I know it does. You can put an 83, 84 label next to an 85 label, and for whatever reason, those 85 labels almost always look faded out,
right?
Even though they're not. So, you can tell a lot of times just by that. But I got that copy of Dynasty in, and I actually asked the seller, I said, hey, does it have a UPC on the back? No, it doesn't. I got it in, and it was a C9 jacket. So
Oh,
I don't know. My opinion is it was a Frankenstein. That's just the way you got to look at it. I mean, some people might go, well, maybe it was a leftover one and it was legitimate. Well, maybe it was, but I can't prove it.
right.
It doesn't match the criteria. So,
Hey, nice
so
glass.
anyway,
Nice glass.
yeah, hey man, yeah. I got two of them the other day. Thought I'd start using that. Uh, so, so in my opinion, I know I wear this out with everybody, but I'm telling you, you need to try to collect these things. These 83, 84s, there just are not that many out there. They're extremely tough to find. They are not expensive right now. Now, if somebody tried to sell you one for $40, I have bought a copy, maybe two copies, and spent $35, $40. But I got to tell you, I feel like I was getting ripped off, but I was voluntarily being ripped off. It was the last two I needed,
Right.
And people that sold it didn't know that. But, normally I would walk away from it at that price. But my gut's telling me these things are so rare, people are, as they finish their collection, want to add something else, and this is what they're going to want to add.
Right.
Not great pressings, I'm sure. I haven't even put one of these on the turntable. I mean, I don't feel compelled to put every record that I buy on the turntable. I mean, how many times do I need to listen to a live back here? I mean, I am collecting for the different variations. That's what I'm collecting for.
Correct. Yeah. Me too.
All right. So go ahead.
I just said me too.
Okay.
I agree totally.
Okay. Okay. All right. So there's the 83, 84s. All right. So now we're going to move to 1985, and I refer, and again, I if somebody else comes up with a better name, I'm okay with it. It seems like there should be a better name than 85s, because what I refer to as an 85 pressing doesn't necessarily mean it was put out in 85. They did not. They pretty much were, letting Kiss fall away at that point. Especially with the old makeup stuff, and everybody's moving into CDs, so they weren't putting a lot of records out, but they did redo the entire catalog over a period of time. I'm not sure the exact time, and Jason, like I told you, I'm going through these 85 pressings of mine and going through the matrix of them, because they almost always have a date on them.
Right.
But it's taken me forever. Some of the stuff is really hard to see. Like the Alive, the date on it is 185. So I assume that's when it was mastered. The plate was mastered. Who knows? Who knows when it got pressed? I don't know. Maybe somebody does. But to me, I don't care. And I've seen some late. I pulled one of the solos out, but I'm sure that they were pressed way later. But that's the group that I put these into is 85 pressings, which, let me back step just a second, because the 83, 84 pressings, they did each of the solo records. I've got them. They did them.
Right.
They also did them again in these 85 pressings. And what I always found interesting about that was as I realized that these things were out there, and I wasn't 100% sure Peter Chris's was in there, because just because it didn't sell well.
Right.
But until I had it in my hand, I wasn't positive that it exists, but it does. And this lends back into that, and I think we touched on this with the solos. They all got returned. They all got, what did they get printed? 1.25 million or something like that copies initially pressed and sent out.
Yeah.
And here they all come back. They all got sold. They had to. Yep. Otherwise, they would never have pressed them again.
Or destroyed.
They would have still been in. Yeah, they would have destroyed them or put them in the warehouse. One of the two. And hell, if you go to the point, I don't think they made any more Atari games after they buried all those. No, so I can't see them doing that. So I guess what I'm saying is those gold and platinum awards, they're legit. Now, they didn't get paid full money for them. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But so anyway, so these 85 pressings, they did the entire makeup catalog with that. The Creatures of the Night got changed to the non-makeup cover and has a Filmworks label. Now, I have seen a copy, and I think it's legit. It reminds me of the Camel label deal with the originals. A guy has got a black label, black custom label, just like came originally on the Creatures makeup cover with his non-makeup cover. All right, I have not seen another one, so I don't know what the deal is.
I believe the Canadian was like that,
right? But this wasn't Canadian, I don't think. I'm almost positive, but yes, the Canadian does come like that. Yeah. Somebody posted that the other day, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So again, I haven't had that in my hand. I always am a little leery about this stuff. You should, you can Photoshop anything.
Right.
Unfortunately. So, you got to kind of watch that, but it may be out there. So again, they released everything in the back catalog except for the originals, obviously. No inserts with any of these things.
No inserts on the 83, 84s as well?
Correct. Okay. Correct. No inserts. There is one strange sleeve on the 85. Let me grab it here real quick. 83, 84 pressing. It's got super thick inner sleeve. All right. I mean, it is super thick. So that's kind of a giveaway for that. And then on the 85, I have no idea why, but it's got the Love Gun inner, but it is UPC's match.
Interesting.
So, generally both those pressings have got just cheesy plastic sleeves inside.
Right.
So, that I have no idea why that one's any different, but kind of is what it is.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So there's that. That Rock and Roll Over is a tough one on that 83, 84, by the way. Okay, so that gets us again the 85 pressings we refer to as a Filmworks 3. The 83, 84 pressings are a Filmworks 2. Okay, Filmworks 4, that's 2014s again. So, so that's what you get with that. Now, once they move to Mercury with Lick It Up, it gets a little bit less cumbersome. There's only 3 Mercury labels for Kiss records. The first one has, let's just call it a Mercury, and it came out with Lick It Up. Creatures non-makeup actually came with that as well. Lick It Up, Animalize, Asylum, Crazy Nights, and Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits. Then in '89, when Hot in the Shade came out, the text on the for the address and stuff gets bigger on the label. That's really the only difference you can tell. I got to be honest, I'm not sure if additional pressings of Lick It Up and those other ones, if they ever had this label variation or not. I don't know. They may have. Kiss album collecting gets kind of weird once Polygram really took over with the non-makeup stuff, because one of the big things that they tried to achieve was economies of scale, which meant everything looked the same in every country. Now, there's the oddball here or there, but in general, they got rid of most of these anomalies on things. So, so it gets a little less interesting with it. All right, and so that's the Mercury number 2. And then Mercury number 3, obviously, is the 2014 reissues. They stayed very true to what the original labels were on them. As far as their branded Mercury, and they even used the non-logo Kiss the same as they did on like a Live 3 and all those. Which I never did really understand why they didn't have the Kiss logo on them anyway. Yeah. Of course, they were licensed pressings, And I think we discussed, I can't remember if we discussed it on air, but
We did the H&H marketing stuff, I believe.
yeah.
We
Where we found out that our picture discs are apparently in the wrong jackets.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. So I don't know. Should I be upset about that or think I got something special? I don't know.
It can't be special because,
It's in the shrink still. But nobody else does, man. All the guys over in Europe, and they all came from here. All those guys have got the correct jacket, and it listed it right on it. And I didn't see it. All right. So then, next after that, after the Mercury ones, shoot up to 2003, when Kiss was with Roadrunner Records. What else did they call that? Was it Kiss Records or I can't remember.
Well,
for the Symphony.
Their label is Kiss Records. They were with Sanctuary.
There you go.
Sanctuary distributed or licensed and distributed that.
There you go. All right, and so that's a custom symphony label. It's got Beethoven on or whatever, and of course Universal apparently bought Sanctuary at some point in time because they re-released Symphony as one of the exclusives in the Kiss stereo box. And man, it is difficult to see the difference on that label. The writing is tiny, but it does show it. So there is a second version of that. Now, the only other wild card on all these is, custom labels, we'll say. And again, like we talked about, if they hadn't been custom labels, Dynasty, Unmasked, The Elder, and Creatures of the Night would have fit into that change over time with Polygram. But as far as custom labels, here's what I count as a custom label: is Love Gun, Double Platinum, the 4 solos, Dynasty, Unmasked, The Elder, Creatures of the Night. Let's see what else we got here. The Creatures non-makeup, again, if that's actually true, a real one.
Right.
Let's see. Then we scoot down to Unplugged, MTV Unplugged, however you want to refer to it. You wanted the best, you got the best. Greatest Kiss, Carnival of Souls, and we'll talk about that in a second. Psycho Circus, Kiss Symphony, which we discussed, but again, that's a custom label. Sonic Boom, Monster, and Alive 4, the Millennium Concert. I know one. Hell, it was down on the bottom of my screen. I forgot to mention, as far as under the Filmworks 4 from 2014, and that's Killers.
Oh, yeah.
Which, we kind of were having a discussion online the other day about that. A few people, a guy didn't understand why that record would be worth so much money.
Saw that.
Yeah, man, that's the only way you can get it. I mean, that's 15 songs on that instead of 12. I think all the rest of them were 12. There may have been one that had a little bit more, but none of them had that many on it. What was I going to come back to? Oh, yeah. So, Psycho Circus. Let's talk about Psycho Circus and the Millennium. All right, not just about their labels. I want to talk about their package in just a second.
Okay.
So, have you ever seen anybody complain about either one of those, Jason?
Well, definitely not Psycho Circus. No.
Oh, did I say Psycho Circus? I'm sorry. Yeah. Carnival of Souls.
Yeah, Carnival of Souls. Yeah.
And Alive 4 the Millennium.
Yes, that's all we do is hear complaints about it.
And actually, Greatest Kiss too. Kiss too. Hear complaints about the packaging on that. What do you hear about that?
Well, why didn't they do gatefolds? Why, why isn't the picture clear on Carnival of Souls? All of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing of it. They were trying to recreate faithful to the era when all these records came out, just like with Love Gun. It's got the same jacket, it's got the same inserts except for the merchandise sheet, it's got the same inner sleeve, same labels. They just wanted to nail them as close to the time frame.
Right.
Now think about when Carnival of Souls came out. They didn't do crap for that record.
The labels weren't even pressing vinyl during that time, so that
but even though let's say that they were, let's just say they were, because there was some vinyl pressings going on at that time, but let's just say that they did. they're not going to give that the
No.
King's treatment. It wasn't going to happen.
Nope.
That album, if it had been pressed on vinyl, was going to come just like you saw it.
Yep.
Just like we got it. And can we debate, should they have done something, in retrospect, because that's what we want today? Yeah, probably so. Probably so. And I think some people have heard the story, that we were looking to find the image to put on the cover of this thing. All right. And, a lot of these, like, Greatest Kiss, it's not so hard to do that. There are promotional posters from when the CD came out, big posters, and, you can scan and shrink that thing, and it looks great. I mean, people that say that it doesn't, I'm sorry, Greatest Kiss looks faithful to what the CD looks like.
I agree totally.
And the same thing with Carnival of Souls. I have yet to ever ask anybody, did you put the LP and the CD next to each other and look to see if there's any difference? I have yet to have a single person ever respond, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And the LP looks like crap. The LP looks like crap because the CD looks like crap.
That's right.
Anyway, I guess I kind of segued off there, but, I hear stuff about, the Millennium Concert. Why is that not a gatefold? Because they would not have done a gatefold at the time that thing was recorded. It just wasn't going to be done. You wanted the best, you got the best. That's not a gatefold.
That's right.
And I don't think anybody accuses them of, shirking what they were trying to do with that. They just didn't do it then.
Right.
So that's why that stuff ended up like that. But that's kind of it. That's kind of it. There's a lot of labels, and I mean, as far as let's just do a real quick count here. Although I think I noticed a couple of places I forgot to put a few. But anyway, so like what we've got is, there are for the very first pressing of Kiss 9001, there's 2 label variations for it. And again, we're not talking about, the wrong song on the side or the wrong artist on the side, or, the way the fonts are or anything. For the 7001 pressing, it's got the most label variations, and it's got 8. All right. Same thing for Hotter Than Hell, 8. Dressed to Kill, 8. Alive, 8. Destroyer has got 7. No, that's 8 also. I'm sorry. Sitting there adding something as I'm going. The Originals, counting the promo copy, has got 2 different variations. The original second pressing has got 2 different label variations. So I guess you could say the Originals got 3, because they share a Camel. But anyway, Rock and Roll Over's got 6 different label variations. Love Gun's got 4. Alive 2's got 4. The following have got 4. Double Platinum, the solo albums, Dynasty, Unmasked, The Elder. Where am I getting a second one on that? Hang on just a second. Oh, yeah, I know where I'm getting it. The Elder's got 2. It's got the original hand label, and it's got the 2014 hand label.
Right.
Creatures of the Night has got 3. It's got the original label. It's got the Filmworks label from 83, 84, and then it's got the 2014 label. Non-makeup has maybe 2, for sure has 1. Lick It Up has 2. Animalize has 2. Asylum has 2. Crazy Nights, Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits, Hot in the Shade, Revenge, Alive 3, Unplugged, and You Wanted the Best all have 2. Greatest Kiss only has 1. If you don't get it out of the box set, you're not going to get it. Carnival of Souls has 1 because again its appearance was in 2014. Psycho Circus has 1 because it was in 2014. Kiss Symphony's got 2. Sonic Boom has 1. Monsters got 1. Live the Millennium Concert's got 1, and Killers has 1. So there's your full list.
There you go. Of U.S. labels.
Yeah. Of U.S. labels, yes, right. Of U.S. labels. So hopefully sometime we'll be gathering all this for other countries. I've talked about this for over a year now. I'm going to do another book. It is going to come. I found some tools to be able to do this. I don't know what kind of pressing it's going to have. That's my only concern. I hope everybody understands, I can't put that book out and lose money. I just can't do that,
Right.
Can't take money from the family. And, I want this thing to be big enough that it's going to have everything that we know in it, but that's going to be tough,
real tough.
and it is. I'm not putting out an ebook. I'm not doing that. It's going to be a physical book. So,
Good.
Worst case scenario, there'll be about 20 leather copies, for the people that really, 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 really want one. But hopefully I'll be able to do it so everybody can get a copy. So.
Yeah, I'm in for one if you no matter what. So. All right. Well, guys, there's you talk about minutia. Unless we start talking about matrix numbers, that's probably pretty in-depth stuff right there. So hopefully we'll get some nice photos in here. Andrew will slide in some photos, and this will be a good informative episode on label variations. So.